Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Roland Ellingson. I'm here on private property, as you'll note, away from city property, which is a few feet away. But anyhow, I'm going to plug the Jeff Davis show, that you'll get the real scoop about what is going down, vortexing downward in the city of Austin and the nation, that we're being chewed alive, unknown, covertly, by government that is not our government anymore. And Jeff Davis puts his finger right on the pulse of the matter and tells it like it is, and he makes waves that the government and certain media people do not like. So, if you want to be informed, Jeff Davis is a mode and a method to get it done, and to get some lead in your pencil or some sturdiness to your backbone and stand up for America, because you're losing it covertly, ladies and gentlemen. And Jeff Davis tries to stop or halt this malfeasance in office, which is a uniform syndrome across America, because the Communist Manifesto, like it or not, it's going great guns in the US of A. Jeff Davis is trying to halt that.
Okay, folks, it's Mike Hanson. Sorry to interrupt you here. We're busy in here. As you can see, we got editing going on, previewing over here, and we need your help to keep this rolling. We would love for you to send in $25, and I will send you back a signed copy of my book, Bohemian Grove, Cult of Conspiracy. It was forwarded by Tex Mars that just recently passed away, and it's fastly becoming a classic because there's not going to be any more Tex Mars. And that's when we snuck in back in the year 2000, the Bohemian Grove. There's Alex and myself when we were younger. Must be nice. And just, if you would, just send in your money and where you want it sent to our address here in Gonzales, Texas, at 901 St. Joseph Street, Gonzales, Texas. If you want to call us here at 830-672-3089. Thanks a lot, and God bless, and continue to subscribe to our YouTube channels here, Mike Hanson Archives, and our newest one, Waco Archives. Thanks a lot, and God bless, and we'll let you get back to your classic viewing here on YouTube.
Hello, folks. This is Jeff Davis with the legendary Jeff Davis Show from Central Texas, USA. And I love Mike Hanson Archives. Peace out, baby.
Now, also on February the 22nd, we've got a show or a event coming to Austin, sponsored by the Jeff Davis Show. It's a Waco Remembrance 5 years later. On February 22nd, we're going to have the Waco Remembrance 5 years later. And this is going to be an extremely effective event, I believe, due to the fact that it is a situation where this is the 5-year anniversary of the murder that took place in Waco. And we have several surviving Davidians scheduled to come down to Austin.
Mike Hanson here on Mike Hanson Archives on YouTube and here on my Facebook. And we're here at the 25th anniversary of the memorial service here in Waco, Texas. And we got Clive Doyle here. Can you tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are on the 25th anniversary here?
It's
It's all right. Everybody knows you.
it's kind of hard. My daughter just died.
That's what I heard, and we didn't put it out on the internet because we were asked not to. This is the first time people out here on my
A lot of them don't. A lot of them don't know yet.
that was your your first daughter died at Mount Carmel, and this was your another daughter.
This is my oldest daughter. It's my youngest that died in the fire. And Karen was coming down, had her plane booked. She was coming down for the memorial, and ended up dying in a head-on collision. A drunk driver. People up in Pennsylvania saying that it was deliberate, it wasn't an accident. Tried to run a cop off the road first. I guess the cop avoided it. Tried to run down another woman and she avoided it. Karen was third in line. So they say she died instantly, which is at least she didn't suffer too much. But seems like every year there's a few more to go.
Yeah, it's just not many left. Clive, I'm so sorry for all the stuff that's happened to y'all, and hopefully it will get better. But you, like you always say, it's going to be better.
It'll get worse before it gets better.
Well, but once we're gone here, maybe.
Well, you know, KRLD called me this morning. Well, what do you think the government's learned in 25 years? I said, nothing. Except don't have the press there filming everything.
How are you doing?
There's Desi. Okay, well, we're getting ready to start. Who do you got speaking this year?
Phil Arnold, James Tabor, I believe, Catherine Lessinger, Mary Winborn wants to say a little bit.
Good. Oh, I can't wait to see her.
So there's a lot of people.
All right, well, we're getting started here, folks. I hope y'all can make it here for the 25th anniversary here. And what's the address here? If they can still make it?
701.
701 Jefferson, Waco, Texas. Hope to see you here,
Sheila.
folks.
Hi.
25th anniversary
Yes,
of what
I know,
happened.
sir.
How are you?
Yes, fine,
Right
thank
here.
you.
Tell them to come on down. They still got
Yes,
time. This
yes,
is live.
it's still time.
Yeah.
Okay. Good
And
morning.
what do you think
How are
about
you?
the 25th anniversary, real quick, before we go
Sorry
in?
that it's still 25 years. I'm sorry that it's still taking so long. We want to get home. We want God to come and change all this.
Amen.
We won't have to think about
Absolutely.
people being dead.
Yes.
You know.
And look at all this food you brought.
Yes. Well,
You
thank
got
you.
everything?
Yes,
Well, we
I
still
think
got time
so.
to get here.
Okay.
April 19th,
No, it's just plain bread.
2018.
Okay.
What time is food?
12:30, 1:45, whatever, 1 o'clock. Okay.
All right, come
better-
on, park your
okay.
car and come on in.
All right, then.
All right,
Thank you.
thank
Okay,
you.
bye-bye
All right,
now.
folks.
And that's going to be in another event taking place on February 22nd, the last Sunday of February. Now, I want to get into today's quick topic, tell you quickly what we've got coming up. I've had several requests over the years to play a video called Atrocities at Ruby Ridge. Now, the reason why this is important is recently we've had a situation where of course, the brief history of Ruby Ridge is that Randy Weaver and he had a family, Vicki Weaver, Samuel Weaver, and 2 daughters who were living in Ruby Ridge, Idaho, back in the early 90s. And basically what happened on that situation was, if you haven't already heard about it, was the BATF and the FBI came in and ultimately ended up in the shooting death of 14-year-old Sam Weaver and Vicki Weaver. And still, again, there's no, here it is now, like 6 years later, and there's still no indictments, and in my opinion, there's not going to be any indictments, just like there's not in Waco, no indictments for Waco, for Gordon Call, for Michael Madsen, for this Hernandez boy that was killed down on the Mexican border by Marines. Basically, what we have here is a system of governance that they decide basically who should live and who shall die, and that's basically the policy. and this is a very dangerous policy. And I'm going to briefly get into a little bit, but anyway, after my little presentation here, I want to get into the area of forfeiture statutes and the drug war, and what I believe the drug war and these forfeiture statutes are doing to the American people. But after we get into my little presentation here, we're going to move towards about a half hour of what I believe is fairly decent footage of the events that took place at Ruby Ridge, Idaho in 1992, and actually 1991. So I think that it is very informational. Keep in mind here, this show is strictly for educational and reference purposes only. And before we move on to my little talk here and whatnot, and during the 30 minutes or so of atrocities at Ruby Ridge, what we have here, folks, and you can see the evil that is in the background here. These symbols that you're looking at are actually the symbols of the Illuminati. And of course, the Illuminati is the origins, at least for modern day society, go back to 1776 and Adam Weishaupt. And of course, the Illuminati, through various secret societies and elitist front groups, have for the better part of the last 70, 80 years or so, controlled and dominated America and the world, in fact. And many of the members that prescribe to Illuminati philosophies are involved in organizations such as the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderbergers, the Committee of 300, the Club of Rome, and of course into the World Council of Churches, the United Nations, NATO. Basically any organization that says world or international has that title. It's largely controlled, financed, and created by members who have prescribed to long-running Illuminati policies. And their basic objective, of course, is to conquer the world through international finance and through the descendants of ancestors. This is essentially what they have done since 1776, and this is the current problem that not just America, but in fact the world faces at this point. And basically what they want is a global power, a global agenda, which they will control. Now I want to just, so this is the background that we have here today. We thought it was appropriate, and it says a lot to anybody that's understanding the high levels, the dark bowels of Freemasonry, the Skull and Bones Society, of which both George W. Bush, the current governor, and George Bush, the former president, were members of. Many elite members. Freemasonry entails such members as Jesse Jackson, Bob Dole, Jack Kemp, Ross Perot. The list goes on of these people and their in and outs, their organizations, and this network. That's what it is, folks. It's a network of evildoers who basically keep you, who through control of resources and information at the top, keep you focused on issues like Marv Albert, just various different types of issues. And we've discussed this before, but if you continue to watch the information we're being fed, you will see this regularly. I want to just mention that part of the philosophy of people, some of the criticism that I receive for some of my views on things stems from this belief that some people aren't interested in what I say because the people are not they're not demanding to hear anything that what I say, or people like me would say. Well, my answer to that is, folks, is as far as the information that we receive, the people are not demanding anything. the people are sheep-like, and they are only reacting to the information that the controlled news curtain at the top of the echelons of this conspiracy basically are feeding them. And that's the gist of what's happening in America and throughout the world. In fact, because keep in mind, this is a global problem. This is a global problem. The United Nations now is being used all over the world to enforce global policies. And we see this in Bosnia and Somalia and Peru and Cuba and Iraq. This loving organization, the United Nations, which is responsible for getting us through UN resolutions, partially responsible for getting us involved in the Korean conflict, at least this country, and the Vietnam War, and Bosnia, Somalia, etc. It's perpetual war for perpetual peace, and under the disguise of peacekeeping. The UN, again, is just another front organization, just another arm of international finance, as is NATO, the World Council of Churches, and I'm sure that some dirty international money funnels into the Pope and the Vatican on a regular basis as well, which explains their rise in political clout. So it's an all-enticing world conspiracy, and this network has virtually every issue, idea, organization of any significance sewn up. And that's what we face. And that's when you look and you see that this background that we have here is very significant to those who I am discussing right now. And that's just the plain and simple facts. Now, one topic, one area where I believe the elitists who are in control of the world basically have various factions of control. And we're going to be talking about this throughout the next several shows, as long as we have a show down here. But we're going to continue to talk about many of the mechanisms and many of the tactics that they use to continue to control and manipulate the masses. Now, the fact is, there's a lot of people that may know about the Federal Reserve and how that it's corrupt and whatnot. There's a lot of things that many people may know bits and pieces about, but the truth is a lot of people don't understand the total system of control that we're under, the total manipulation process. So in this special segment, I'm just going to concentrate on one area where the enemy, the Antichrist forces, who do rule and manipulate over us, are using to create fear, to create hysteria, to completely surrender our Bill of Rights that was in the Constitution. And just they gain so many things by this one tactic. Now, there's many tactics. Welfare programs control the masses, the people that will receive them. Taxation controls the masses for people that don't receive the welfare programs but are vulnerable to control of their transactions and resources. And mainly just control of information controls the thought processes of many Americans and keeps them basically focused on issues of no significance and divisive issues and this kind of thing. We talk about this a lot on this program. However, I want to talk about one in particular today, because this is a very significant tool that the enemy uses to control the masses, to get them to surrender more of their rights, more of their liberties. And that area, that one issue is in the area of the drug war. Now, this is an area where I haven't really, I've based my opinions, I've told my my views on this briefly, but I want to expand on this. First off, you have to understand that the Committee of 300, one of these front groups up here, very secretive organization, actually controls, it's about 300 members. It is 300 members of industrialists, international financiers, huge corporate magnates, huge media magnates. And basically, they meet on an annual basis or semi-annual basis and basically plot out the international drug trade. Yes, folks, drugs are not just coming from the little two-bit cartels in Mexico like you're being told on the nightly news. That's just not the case. Drugs are too prevalent for that to happen. So the Committee of 300 basically decides, and they use various mechanisms of doing it, and I'm going to show you exactly some books. Now again, we're not even going to tell you basically. We're not going to tell you where to get them or endorse them. We're just going to show them. That proof that this government is in fact involved in the major narcotics trade, at least in this country and throughout the world. In fact, it's a global international drug problem. But it's like I say, it's not just coming from little two-bit Mexican cartels. One book of information on this is from a former insider who spent actually 22 years as a federal inspector for many different departments, and his name is Rodney Stitch, and he wrote a book called Defrauding America. Now, I haven't read all of this book, but I've read bits and pieces of it. Basically, what it talks about is why he was involved in as an insider in various government capacities, that he witnessed firsthand the CIA's involvement in bringing drugs into this country at very high levels. And much of this drug money, of course, is channeled through the major banks in the country, laundered and channeled. And so there are actually people who are profiting from it. And then the resources and the drugs actually go down to the lowest level drug pushers out into the streets. But the big problem, again, being the Committee of 300, who decides, basically controls the flow and controls the information, or it controls the large amount of drugs that are coming into this country. And in fact, the drug war against Mexico, the Mexican cartels, is basically just a drug war to fight their competition, their little small-time competition. They want it wiped out. So this way they can control the drug war at a large scale. Another book that talks about this and verifies this is a book called Compromised, written by Terry Reid. Once again, we're not endorsing any books. I'm just basically using it as reference here. Terry Reid was a former CIA operative, and he wrote the book Compromised, Clinton, Bush, and the CIA. And his basic evidence and information spears to the fact that when he was a CIA operative in South America, South and Central America, and particularly in Mena, Arkansas, that he witnessed firsthand literally hundreds of drug shipments coming in through flights from the CIA. So the evidence is clearly there. In fact, even the national media has touched upon it lightly, and then they discredit it and forget it. But the fact is that there's anybody that's got any real sense knows that drugs are so prevalent in society right now that it's definitely a huge market, and there is a huge opportunity there for people to receive drugs, and it's just much bigger and broader than the little Mexican cartels that are supposedly bringing in all these drugs into this country. So the enemy through various mechanisms. It's controlling the drug market, like I say, all the way down, up from the Committee of 300 to all the way down to the through the CIA, through the bank laundering of the drug money, all the way down to the local drug pushers. It is a system of control, a system. In fact, secretly, the enemy who rules this world right now, the Committee of 300 members, and these huge internationalists, secretly and privately want America's youth using drugs, because that's just another way that they can enslave their minds and be more vulnerable to the propaganda machine that they're being fed. So that eliminates the idea about what's happening with the drug situation as far as who's bringing it in here. Very well known, if anybody studies it, if anybody thinks through the lies, that this government, and I won't say our government, but this government, and particularly the shadow government, the ones that are controlling this government from behind the scenes, is directly involved in the drug importation into America and in other countries as well. Now, so beyond that, understanding that, the next issue that ties into this, it's so related, is how they use this mechanism. Now, there is an area in the law which is created by the Washington District of Criminals. Again, we're supposed to be sovereign, and many of these laws raining down on us shouldn't even apply to us. But unfortunately, you know, we are fed to believe that they do. But so under this system of enslavement and all these laws that are being created, there is one particular set of laws called the forfeiture statutes. Now, the forfeiture statutes are very important because it is an element of the drug mechanism that is very prevalent right now. And it has been used to literally create chaos, create crisis, allow people with black ski masks to come busting into your home, and under the disguise of this war on drugs. Now, this war on drugs, again, if you understand how the enemy works, how they create the crisis in step one by bringing the drugs in here and profiting from them. In step two, they create fear and hysteria amongst the people by showing us images of you know, the drugs in the streets, and you know, the law enforcers cracking down on them. They create the fear and hysteria with the so-called drug war, and then in step three, come in and pose themselves as the problem solvers by attacking this drug war and going those wicked two-bit drug dealers out in the streets. Okay, this is your Hegelian principle. They've created 1, 2, and 3, and very few. You know, some people are starting to see this, but still too few are understanding how this manipulation process. They're doing this on various issues, but I'm just talking about this issue here with this special segment. Now, these forfeiture statutes, what they have done, not only than allow people to come busting into your house under the so-called drug war, it has now become so criminal that they are now in some highways in Florida, Louisiana, in various places, a so-called law enforcement officer, law enforcement, of course, meaning slave master enforcement, because many of these laws are unconstitutional. Many of these laws are laws that are victimless, that are nothing more than laws to make us criminals of the state. But however, they send their law enforcers out, and what is happening is, under the guise of this drug war, it has even corrupted many of the police departments in America. Because what is happening is, under these forfeiture statutes, remember, greed in men doesn't just apply to international bankers. Greed in men apply to everyone who sees an opportunity to confiscate property, to enrich their lives. And this is what's happening in America. Right now, there are people who are losing their homes to the drug war, losing their cars to the drug war, and in many cases are not even being there's not even actually clear evidence that they were involved in selling drugs. For example, in some of the highways in Florida and Louisiana, and probably others, these are just the only ones I've had confirmed, there are actually been thousands of situations where travelers and tourists are stopped on the highways, and they are basically asked if they have any cash on their person or in their car. And if that particular trooper or law enforcement officer believes that at least has the perception or even false perception, depending upon how, if he's criminally minded, if they have the perception that this person has, let's say he has $2,000 of cash in his trunk or $700 of cash in his glove box. If that law enforcement officer can just simply say, we believe this is drug money, and then in thousands of instances over the last 10 years, these police departments have literally taken people's cash, just basically said that they need, they believe this is drug money, and they've taken their cash, stole their cash, and have not even charged them with anything. No charge, no indication that it was drug money, but they take their cash. And of course, much of the cash we don't know. The Federal Reserve knows. Better stated. But anyway, so they take their Federal Reserve notes, and some of it is supposedly going back into the police department, the so-called drug war, to recycle itself back into more, to enhance more police power. And then, of course, I'm sure some of it is just kind of casually just pocketed by the particular law officers that are involved in the transaction. I'm sure this has happened from time to time as well. This type of situation violates virtually every right in the Bill of Rights. And this is what's happening with these forfeiture statutes. So, this is going on and has been going on for at least a decade in this country, where people have lost their cars, their properties, their cash has been seized and stolen from them, and they haven't even ultimately been charged with anything. And if they are charged with something, and if they don't even have to be charged with anything, but if they want to go and redeem their money back, it is a long, drawn-out process where they have to actually expire many of their resources to try to get their stolen resources back. Now, this is a blatant violation of the Bill of Rights, blatant violation of our loss of liberties, and this is just one mechanism that we are seeing here in America being employed upon the American people. Now, folks, the reason why I continue to do this, and will continue to do this, is that I believe in liberty, and that's all there is to it. I believe in individual responsibility, liberty, and I want that for my children and my grandchildren. That's all. That's simply what I want. If I cannot back some of these enslaving laws that are coming down on me for me to have a respectable life here in America, then at least I want to have contributed to my children's and my grandchildren. I think that we owe them that. And remember that resistance to tyrants is obedience to God. And I just want to encourage you folks, keep watching this program. And my name is Jeff Davis, and I hope that you have enjoyed this one mechanism. And we're going to be providing a series of informative segments here where I think that maybe if you listen, you'll have your eyes opened up to some of what's happening, and some of the tactics and mechanisms that are being deployed against, keep in mind, not just Americans, but people on a worldwide basis. Our new time slot is, at least for now, down here at ACAC, is Monday nights, Channel 10 from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Monday nights, 7 to 8:30 p.m. And we're also involved in some radio activities right now. Of course, we can't talk about that down here, but we're involved in some radio activities, and we intend to stay active with that. But again, I want to encourage you to just listen to what I'm suggesting is happening here, and think about how many drugs there are and how prevalent drugs are in society. Is that just coming from Mexico, from the little two-bit Mexican cartels? I don't think so. Think about the drug war. What's the drug war really about? Who's profiting from it? Who's losing from it? Who's being violated from it? This is the issue that I wanted to talk to you all about today. And I want to encourage you to just think about these issues. You don't even have to believe anything that I've said here. I just want you to think about it. Do a little investigation yourself. And I believe if you do, and you honestly do investigate, you will find that this is indeed what's happening to us. So with that, I want to go on to play about 20 minutes or so, maybe 15 minutes or so of this short piece, the atrocities at Ruby Ridge. And I think this is just another mechanism, another element that we need to be very watchful for. Because the fact is, folks, we cannot have a government who's going around continually, and it's continually now, going around killing people and not being held accountable. We cannot have this, and I will continue to say this. And I don't care if the Congress and has these phony hearings and whitewashes everything. I'm talking to the people who are receptive to truth. We cannot have a government or any other mechanism, government, corporation, church, like in the Inquisition of the Catholic Church, whatever name it comes under. Keep in mind, tyranny can come in any color, any name, and it can come on us quickly. And without any resistance, without any real vigilance, it can consume us. And this is what I believe is happening. So the bottom line is we cannot continue to have a government or whatever going around killing people and being held unaccountable. So with that, folks, we'll go to the last part of this show, to a little bit of the footage from Ruby Ridge, the atrocities at Ruby Ridge, Idaho. And God bless you, Austin, Texas. See you next time.
But no effort was made by officials to correct the error. The Weavers missed the court date, and 18 months later, on August 21st, 1992, a disastrous chain of events began.
It was about 11:30. The dogs started barking. Kevin, Sam, and I ran out to see what the dogs were barking about. I was carrying a 12-gauge shotgun. Kevin was carrying a 30-06 bolt action. Sam was carrying a 223 Mini 14. Stryker was at the pump house, barking into the woods. We went down to investigate. We heard something running west. So Sam and Kevin followed Stryker, and I dropped down on the logging road, heading west. I didn't have any idea what we were chasing. We hoped it might be a deer. When I reached the first fork in the logging road, a very well-camouflaged person yelled, "Freeze, Randy." I yelled, "Forget it," and immediately retreated 80 to 100 feet towards home. I realized immediately that we had run smack into an ambush. I stopped to see if I was being followed. About that time, I heard a gunshot, and Stryker yelped. Then I heard two more shots, and Stryker stopped yelping. I started yelling for Sam and Kevin to return home, and that the feds had shot Stryker. I also fired my shotgun once into the air to draw attention to myself, and praying that would help. I replaced the empty shell with a new one, shoving it past the extractor, jamming my shotgun. I drew my 9mm handgun and fired 3 or 4 rounds up into the air, and I was yelling again for Sam to return home. Sam said, "I'm coming, Dad." I then walked backwards up the hill towards home, yelling to Sam and Kevin to come home. All the while, I heard many shots ringing out from the direction of the ambush. By the time I reached home, I still hadn't seen Sam or Kevin coming home, and they didn't respond anymore when I called to them. A few minutes later, Kevin came walking home. We asked him if he had seen our son, Sam, and Kevin said, "Yes, Sam is dead."
Deputy Marshal William Degan was also killed during the Marshal's so-called surveillance mission. Marshal Degan was the most highly regarded and honored serviceman in the 203-year history of the service. Through court testimony and autopsy reports, one should recognize Marshal Degan's entrance wound was in the middle of his back, exiting through his heart and out of his chest. It should also be understood that no fragments were found as the bullet penetrated straight through his body. And so it was that Operation Northern Exposure began. 6 marshals of the Special Operations Group, or SOG, were sent in on the 18-month surveillance mission. Those marshals included U.S. Deputy Marshal William Degan, Inspector Arthur Roderick Jr., Number 3 man in the Marshal Service Tony Perez, U.S. Deputy Marshal Larry Cooper, Number 2 man U.S. Deputy Marshal David Hunt, and Chief Deputy Marshal Ron Evans. Their superiors included Associate Marshal Duke Smith and former FBI Director William Sessions. The men included in the Special Operations Group are highly trained technical experts, the most highly skilled in their field. The following is just some of the equipment used on the Weavers during their surveillance mission. 2 hidden battery-operated cameras was transported in some 25 boxes, all containing electronic surveillance equipment. It was also arranged for a medevac helicopter to be on standby on August 21st, 1992. An XR-5000 stun gun was also brought to incapacitate Randy, which proves the need for the medevac. And all men were equipped with M16 submachine guns. Some also had silencers. Through court testimony, it is learned that the marshals working the surveillance mission on August 21st actually provoked the battle. It was learned that these 6 marshals deliberately threw rocks at the Weaver dogs, knowing if the dogs barked, the Weavers would come running. It should also be noted that the agents on the mission did not have a search or arrest warrant. As you will see, the search warrant is dated at 9:08 p.m. on August 21st, which is more than 12 hours after the death of Sam Weaver and Marshal William Degan. So in reality, this means that the federal government had taken lethal action against their own citizens without any authority at all. By August 22nd, martial law was declared by the governor of the state of Idaho, and federal troops were brought in with armored personnel carriers. Also brought in on the 22nd was the FBI hostage rescue team headed by Dick Rogers, the same man who heads the HRT team 6 months later in Waco, Texas. The snipers who are on the HRT team are taught to hit by shooting a dime off a fence post from 200 meters or 660 feet away. They are equipped with Remington Model 700 rifles with special barrels and a 10-power scope. There are 10 men on the team. Military personnel are equipped with rocket launchers and grenade launchers, as well as light tanks. A 20-square-mile area was declared a disaster area, and families were displaced and moved from their homes. This made citizens of Idaho very angry and upset at the federal government's show of power on a small family. all who are aware of the event are also aware of the death of Marshal William Degan. However, no one except the marshals who were in on the initial raid and the Weavers are aware of Sam's death. This news is not made public for 5 more days.
The next day, sometime late afternoon, we heard our 2 remaining dogs start barking. Kevin, Sarah, my oldest daughter, and I left the house to check the north perimeter. We didn't see anything, so I was going to the guest house, where Sam was, to see him one last time. As I reached up to unlatch the door, I was shot from the rear and hit in the upper right arm. The bullet exited through my armpit. When everyone heard the shot, Kevin and Sarah came around behind me, and we headed for the house in this order. Myself, Sarah, and then Kevin. Vicki came to the door and yelled, "What happened?" I yelled, "I'm hit." Vicki was holding the door open for us to get in the house with our 10-month-old baby in her arms. A shot rang out and Vicki fell to the floor. She had been shot in the head. She fell in such a way that our baby wasn't harmed. At the same time, Kevin fell through the door into the kitchen. As near as we can tell, Kevin was struck with the same bullet that hit Vicki, leaving a very large wound on his left upper arm and penetrating his chest. Needless to say, we realized snipers were everywhere. They had killed Sam, wounded me, and then killed Vicki, and wounded Kevin.
Again, agents involved and close to the Weaver cabin know of the death of Vicki and the wounding of Kevin and Randy. But again, Vicki's death is not made public until Friday, which is another 6 days away. By Sunday, some 500 to 800 federal troops have converged on the cabin, and special machinery and materials are brought in to build a bridge so as federal troops can get their heavy equipment up to the Weaver cabin. The building of this bridge would cost taxpayers some $25,000 by the time of its completion. Of course, since the Weavers made everything public, the citizens from the surrounding area are, to say the least, outraged at the government's actions. It should also be noted at this time that a national media blackout was in order.
When they're all dead. Shame on you, being a part of murder on your own community. What was you, baby? Shame on you! Shame on you! Signs there? Yeah.
It is now Monday, 3 days into the siege, and tensions on both sides are running high. On Monday, helicopters also began to converge on the cabin. Of course, it is pure speculation, but everyone protesting the siege believed the federal government was going to end it on this day, one way or another. As reports began to surface about the government's intentions, journalists began to move to other locations throughout the hills to see if their speculation would ring true. As you will hear, reporters received word that the government was going to give Randy an ultimatum, that he either come out or they would douse the cabin with diesel fuel from the choppers above. If Randy still would not come out, then the government's plan to resolve the situation was to light a match and throw it in. Again, it was pure speculation, but what we know is that the reporter that caught the chopper on film was later apprehended and arrested on charges of obstruction of justice. His tape was also confiscated. Luckily, the journalist switched tapes on FBI officials, and this was their reasoning for the charges. Also, luckily for the Weavers, because of the actions of the journalists, the remaining Weaver lives were probably saved, as the chopper made several circles, then seen the reporter filming and left the area.
We wouldn't be landing. No, but I think he's heading out. There he is, he's right above it again.
He probably brought him down to Idaho.
Still circling. Cliff, can you get pictures of that?
I've gotten lots of pictures of it.
Our intention is to drop diesel fuel on and burn the place down within minutes. There it is. It's circling.
Went down through some of them up behind us. Oh, I went down and watched.
Still circling. He's going down. They're going to be very careful when they drop stuff because they don't want to get any of that on their tricks. Probably had them back out.
Come over here that want to be looked at, you know.
Your classic viewing of all these classic Jeff Davis and Alex Jones tapes and a bunch of other Patriots here on Mike Hanson Archives, our new channel, Hanson Archives, and our newest channel, Waco Archives, which we're putting up the interviews and all the history from the last 27 years of Mount Carmel and what happened over there. All right, I'm waiting for our worker to get here where we can put some more great stuff up on. There's all our tapes over there, and we got a lot more coming. And we're previewing the tapes now where we can put them up on this editing system here. And we got a new station over here, which we're going to be putting the stuff up on the computer, and then it will be transferred over here to the editing station. But what I want to talk to you about is how we're funding this is I'm offering, send us $25 for my book, Bohemian Grove, Cult of Conspiracy. There's Alex Jones and I in our younger days. Must be nice. Let's see, where is the book? All this stuff. This is all the stuff that's been previewed and getting ready to be transferred over to be edited over here. You got to remember, out of the 2,000 live shows, a lot of the stuff was, we were changing tapes and stuff back then, and nobody's going to sit there and watch slates, so we edited it down to just the great information. Okay, we need your help out there, folks. Send $25 and we'll send you a signed copy of Bohemian Grove, Cult of Conspiracy, forwarded by Tex Mars. This is the second edition. Believe it or not, there's the first edition. That's hard to get a hold of. But Tex Mars edition is fastly becoming a collector's item because he did pass away not too long ago. So send us $25. You can call us at 672-3089, and the girl will take your credit card and she'll send it out, get me to sign it and send it out. Talk to Angela. She'll definitely fix you up here at 830-672-3089. And if you would like to write us, it's 901 St. Joseph's here in beautiful Come and Take It, Gonzales, Texas. First shot of the Texas Independence War happened right here. Some of y'all know I'm related to Davy Crockett. There is the family tree my son did. And we would appreciate any help you can give us to get this historical feat. It's going to be a lot of work. We figured out one time when I was the producer of Jeff Davis and Alex Jones, we did over 2,000 live shows. And there's a whole bunch of other people too, George Humphrey, Steve Lane, and a bunch of other people that's on these tapes too. And a lot of them are not living anymore. So it's very historical. And, a lot of this stuff was talked about 25 years ago when it wasn't very popular to do so. So if you can help us, I would appreciate it.
I love Mike Hanson Archives.
No Constitution, no Bill of Rights, no freedom. Welcome to Russia. So the FBI and the ATF take orders from the Constitution. Please listen to that, men. That's what you've taken a vow to do, not from George Bush. Your Constitution, you took a vow to uphold that Constitution, and when you fail, you can be held in charge and possibly will be, each one of you individually.
Morning, and federal agents announced that they have found the body of 13-year-old Sam Weaver. Throughout the siege, agents acted as if they did not know of the death of Sam. But through court testimony, we learned that agents were full aware of the death when he was shot 3 times in the back on day 1 while trying to retreat to the Weaver cabin. We also learned through court testimony that agents stole Sam's body from the guest house earlier that morning as they went through the outbuildings. Sam's autopsy revealed that he was
Anybody want to come up here? All right, that's it. All right, who wants to lead it? Let Gene go. Go ahead. Yes, sir. Here's
all right. God bless the Republic. Death